And welcome into Sand Mountain Community Watch here on KWN TV. We're excited about this week's program. Everybody always gets excited about back to school.
Yes, sir. Very exciting times.
And we are pleased to have on the program this week the Jackson County School Superintendent, Mr. Kevin Dukes. He has graciously said that he would come in and talk with us about the activities that's gone on during the summer, and then talk a bit about the brand new school year with all your different schools. And we were talking off the air right before we come on. It's going to be an exciting year, it sounds like.
Yes, sir. We've got a lot of excitement going on, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, first of all, you know, you have been with the Jackson County school system for years.
Just wrapped up year 21.
Wow, a long time. And when I first got to know you, met you, you were the principal at Skyline.
Yes, sir.
And that's you know, and I think I've told you this, but when I first went over to Skyline, and I went up through Woodville, went up Skyline towards High Top over there, and I was just meeting some folks, and I pulled in one of the convenience stores over there, and one thing that I noticed about Skyline right off the bat is the fact that they didn't know me from anybody, but everybody in there, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. You know, I mean, just made you feel like that I lived there, you know, and I was impressed with that, you know, because I mean, they didn't know why I was there. I mean, I just pulled in.
It's one of the most accepting places I've been. I've been to several schools throughout the school system, and you know, you get a new student and they're accepted in. I mean, and everybody welcomes them with open arms, and you can find people, new students that come in, new families, that they really enjoy it because we do make them feel welcome out there.
Well, I was impressed, and I just knew that to you know, right off the bat. And I got back in the car and I thought, this is there's something unique about this area. First time, and I will tell you, the first time I can ever remember being over on that side of Jackson County on the very western side. I'd always heard about Skyline, but I'd never been that far up, and I never went to High Top, even though that's where the National Weather Service radar is, you know. But I was tickled with the response, and this has been a couple of years back, but they just treated me like I just lived down the street.
Well, and most folks, the only time they've been there is to a baseball game, softball game, or a basketball game, and so they usually see it after dark. But it's a great place, you know. There's some history there with the Skyline Farms project, and we've got the walls of Jericho there. So there's a lot at Skyline that people don't realize, but great place, great community.
Well, I was
folks.
thoroughly impressed, and of course you were able to. I think the first year that when we got to know you, you were hosting the Jackson County basketball tournament, I believe,
sir.
and
yes, sir.
And we've done that the last 2 or 3 years, and it goes around to different schools. So, well, anyway, how has it been to make the transition from 21 years in education and teacher into principal, and now running the place?
It's been very exciting. I've learned a lot. You know, you learn as you go. Actually, pretty much through the month of December, late November, I started fielding a lot of questions, dealing countywide, phone calls, emails, things like that. So I was getting a taste of it then. I had a great assistant principal at Skyline, Jason Davidson. He's North Sand Mountain School graduate, and he helped me along the way. He was very helpful, and he ended up getting the job at Skyline as principal, but he was carrying a lot of the Skyline load while I was working towards the entire county load. Since then, you know, I've had to take 2 all-day classes on law and finish it up with a test, 2 all-day classes on finance, 2 all-day classes on curriculum instruction. That's one of the state legislator requirements for Alabama to be a superintendent. So I wrapped all that up last week. So it's been exciting, it's been fun, and I've learned a lot.
Well, I have to ask this question, and it's just because did they actually have a part of teaching in the state that tells you when to call off school when it snows?
No, but that is the number one thing that superintendents discuss with each other. I mean, and I'm lucky because I've got a great relationship with Madison County Superintendent. I had with Dr. Spivey at Scottsboro, Jim Cunningham at Fort Payne, Jason Barnett, DeKalb County and I are very close, and Dr. Cindy Wigley at Marshall County. So there's 5 or 6 superintendents, and every time a weather call is questionable, we're all going back and forth with each other, and it makes everything a little bit easier because we communicate with each other and we work together. Now there's some days that one of us may have to make a call where the other one don't, but luckily all of us had to make the same ones, and the governor declared a few state of emergencies
that
right there that made the job a lot easier.
It certainly does, and I've of course known a great number of superintendents throughout the years, and that's one of the hardest jobs as far as making a decision when it snows, because you're never going to get it right in some folks' eyes. There's always going to be a group of people that I've found, well, they should have went, or they should have delayed and went, or, well, I'm glad they called it off. There's always a small group of people that it's hard to please everybody.
It is. And student safety is my number one priority, so I can handle a mad parent calling and getting upset with me, but I'm going to make the right call to keep students safe.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I have, every superintendent I've interviewed, I always like to ask that question, because that seems to be one of the biggest things, because they don't teach you that.
No, sir, not at all.
That's
one thing you got to learn on your own, and it's a tough learn also.
I heard that. Well, I tell you what, we are talking this week on Sandmountain Community Watch with Kevin Dukes. He is with Jackson County, the superintendent, and this is his first full year as the superintendent, coming up first all full school year that we're going to talk to him about. Got some exciting news and also a few changes. So stay with us as Sandmountain Community Watch continues right after this. Back now to Sandmountain Community Watch here on KWN TV. This week, of course, getting ready for back to school, and we've got Kevin Dukes in the studio here with us. He is the duly elected school superintendent. This is his first year. You actually come in during you took office like January 1.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Which is right in the middle of the school year.
Absolutely.
It's kind of an odd thing, I guess, but
it is odd, and it was some adjusting to get used to it coming in the middle of the game, because you can't make changes at that point in time, or it's hard to. So.
Well, I guess you had to clean out your desk at Skyline on Christmas break, and you remember where you had to go to in January.
And that was tough after being there
Well,
6.5 years. As principal, it was tough leaving the place, and it was tough cleaning out the desk and getting going.
I heard that. Well, at least you get to go to all of them then.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I enjoy that.
The upcoming school year, I know we got a lot of things to talk about this hour. Where do we need to start?
I guess when school starts. Teachers are starting August the 9th, which is Wednesday of next week, and then our school start is actually pretty much the latest in North Alabama. Our students are starting August the 14th. The supervisors and myself came together, and we devised a calendar A and a calendar B, and what we thought would work best, and we let the teachers vote on A and B, and they were very similar. And we've had some folks that are not happy about it because it doesn't have a fall break. It's got 2 days for students, 1 day for teachers. But with the August 14th start, that's usually the hottest time of the year around here, and it's miserable being on the buses, and that was one of our key points, is thinking about the students being on the bus at that hot period. Fortunately, it's cooled off a little bit right now, but I'm sure in the next few weeks it'll get bad again. But and also it saves us on cost. I mean, not running the air conditioner in every classroom in every school throughout the county. We felt there was more benefits by possibly going later, and that's ended up what we're going with.
A lot of school systems look at that because there's a lot of electricity involved, and if you're not having to run those air conditioners, for 2 weeks, it does save quite a bit. How many schools do you have?
18.
18 different schools. Mm-hmm. Well, you can just imagine if you paid the power bill yourself. I know that I could understand, not having to run that air in the summertime. Plus the fact the buses is another thing. And being in a rural area, and we are all in a rural area, no matter where you're at, really, unless you happen to be one of the bigger cities like Scottsboro or Rainsville or Fort Payne, Stevenson or Bridgeport. A lot of times the students are on buses for a good while.
They are. Some of them, maybe as much as an hour. Some of them may be 15 minutes or less. It's different depending on the location and the school. You know, one school will have a long route and a short route. So,
Well, how many buses do you have?
we have a total of 100 buses. Now, a few of those are sub buses,
Right.
but the majority of them run routes. So we've got several, and Mr. Kirby with maintenance and transportation, his guys do a good job keeping the buses up to par.
Oh, with that many buses? Oh,
We had one bus out of the entire fleet of 100 that needed a little work. It was one of our sub buses when they came and evaluated us. So, you know, we got a good report on that. I guess that was back in January. So we're pleased that our mechanics are doing a good job keeping us up to par.
So the teachers are going to be reporting on the 14th of August, and then they'll be going back on the 9th.
The teachers the 9th and the students the 14th.
On the 14th. If there's some moms and dads, aunts and uncles, whoever has custody maybe of a student that's going back that hasn't been enrolled, one of the questions I want to ask, what do they do now? What if they've just moved into Jackson County and they really don't know what to do?
They just need to go to the local school. The local school secretaries are working. The principals are working. The counselors are working at the high schools, and they'll fix them up.
So just right now, Monday through Friday, just go. If you live in the Skyline area, go to
Monday through Thursday of this week, and we took Fridays off during the summer, and so we're still going to be off this Friday. But after that, starting next week, we'll be back on Friday.
So just go to the schools and say, and you can get pre-registered there.
Absolutely.
And do you have a pre-registered window for everybody, or is it just
people come and go all the time, so it's
okay?
Just whenever they come, we'll take them.
All right, and if you're going from, say, the middle school to the high school, everything should move up, right?
It should move up, and most of the high schools have a transition meeting for the junior high students that go to the 9th grade, and they've had meetings in the spring. Some of them are having meetings now, coming up, and so the schools are trying to do a good job, the principals and the counselors are, of getting these folks an easy transition, a smooth transition, and getting to know their way around so they won't feel so intimidated making that move up.
Do y'all have any type of open houses?
We do. One thing I've encouraged is kind of a back to school night, actually before school starts, because the old open house, you might be 6 weeks into school and meet your teachers. And kind of what I did at Skylines, I wanted folks to be able to come and meet their teachers, drop off their supplies in advance. And so I've kind of encouraged that, and not everybody's able to make it because somebody from the central office is going to try to attend all of those meetings as well. So some of them will be after school starts, but the majority of them are having them in the next few days, before the August the 14th.
All right, well, that is good. So be looking at that, and I'm sure that they can go to your website and the school's individual websites to find out when that's going to be.
Absolutely. A lot of that is posted on the website. They can follow us, on Twitter and on Facebook, and we put a lot of information out there.
All of those things that we never used to have.
Never. And we can get the message out pretty quick now with that.
I heard that. So that is good. So go ahead, if you have questions about returning back to Jackson County School, wherever it may be, they've got their employees that are already there, secretaries and the principal and the guidance counselors are there, so they can help you. And of course, you've got folks at the central office, I'm sure, there in Scottsboro.
Absolutely. We're working Monday through Thursday, 7 to 4.
All right. Well, good. And a lot of school systems, I've noticed that they do that in the summertime. They work the 4 days a week, a little longer, and then take the Fridays off, have long weekends for the folks that don't get a summer off, like the teachers do.
That's when a lot of work takes place. A lot of the stuff gets completed during those hours. So.
Before we go to our next segment, we were talking earlier, right before we went back, Dr. Harris, the school superintendent in Dade County, came from Alabama, and also our new Dade County, Georgia middle school principal is Dr. Spivey, that just retired from Scottsboro. So.
And Dade County is very fortunate to have both of them. I've been around Dr. Harris a little bit. Principally Speaking Network, she was over it. It's North Alabama administrators, superintendents, and she was over that for a while. And Dr. Spivey and I, being in the same town, we would communicate regularly, and Dade County is very fortunate to have both those people. They were well respected throughout the state of Alabama in their positions.
Well, we've been tickled to. Dr. Harris has been here now, and she has just hit the ground running wide open here in the last year or so, and just nothing but good things from Dr. Harris, and looking for good things with Dr. Spivey that's coming in from Scottsboro, and taking over the middle school here.
Good things are going to happen. I feel certain.
We are talking this week about the returning back to school in Jackson County. This week's edition of Sand Mountain Community Watch. I got Mr. Kevin Dukes in the studio with us. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, there's some grants that's been awarded. There's some good things happening in Jackson County schools. We'll tell you about them coming up right after this. Back to Sand Mountain Community Watch. Kevin Dukes, who is the superintendent of Jackson County Schools, here with us this week, fixing to crank things up for another exciting year for the kids. I know they're just tickled to death that school starts in about 2 weeks here.
Well, most of the time people are under the impression that students are not ready to go back, and the students will tell you they're not ready to go back, but they're really anxious to go back. You know, they're anxious to show off their new clothes. They're anxious to see their friends, and you know, sometimes they need school. I mean, because they're at home, their parents are working, they're there alone.
Need the structure.
And they need the structure. And so most of them might not admit it, but they're excited. They're excited about getting back.
Well, they get to see their friends that they haven't seen in a while, you know, and it's a little easier to keep up, I guess, with social media now. I mean, because I can remember the days you left in the spring or when school was out in the early summer, and some of your friends you didn't get to see.
Exactly.
Until you went back
there was
to
no
school.
Communication.
You know, unless you saw them at the grocery store somewhere, or if you happened to be playing ball over the summer or something, and they were too. But a lot of times, if you lived in different parts of the county, you just wouldn't see them until school started back. So, unlike that now.
Not like that. It instantly through social media.
I heard that, and the social media is a good way to keep up with the good things on the good positive side. And of course, we can talk about the negative side. There is that, but the things that parents can do now to keep up with what's going on at their schools through Twitter. I know I follow you. A lot of the principals have Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts, and they put out information. And really, in this day and time, if you don't know what's happening in your child's school, it's just, you know, y'all have done a great job to put all the avenues together to make all the information available to them if they just have, you know, Facebook and Twitter and the different things like that to keep up with what's going on.
Well, several of the schools had a Twitter account or a Facebook account, and when I came in, that was one of the things that I strongly encouraged. I said every school needs this.
Right.
To put, you know, when something bad happens, it's going to hit the media. We've got to put out our good things, and so I think our folks are doing a great job of putting out our good things that's happening.
Well, you know, one thing, I mean, you can put out the positive things, but you just hit on something because the negative, there used to be an old saying, I think it was even an old song, you know, good news, bad news travels like wildfire, good news travels slow. And I think it's very important for anything, especially in schools, but really in anything, in any organization, is if something happens, and unfortunately things do happen that needed to have information dispensed or whatever, is to get the correct things out first. Because if you don't, a lot of times I heard this, or I think this, or I'm really not sure, and it becomes what's being spread when it not necessarily has anything to do with the truth.
And unfortunately, we ran into some of that, and I learned some lessons, you know, these first few months. You know, we had lockdowns at a couple of our schools, and message got out that this happened or that happened, and some of it was the truth, some of it was very far from the truth. And what happened, I had some folks upset because we would not call and explain what went on, and when there's an investigation, ongoing investigation, naturally you can't do that. You know, I had one situation where some folks were upset that we didn't let them know while the school was actually on lockdown. Well, student safety is our number one priority, not not getting the word out what's happening, protecting the students. And I did learn. I learned a lot, these first few months with that. But social media, that was where the downfall, when it was not 100% accurate, and you're having to defend the things that happened. And you can't tell the whole story because it is under investigation.
Right,
at times.
but I do think that folks now are, you put out as much information as you can possibly put out, and you're putting out the correct information. It keeps a lot of the other misinformation from continuing to
like I said, I learned a lesson on that this year.
And well, that leads me in, because what we were going to talk about in this segment, exciting news for Jackson County. An RSO, a school resource officer, and I've heard a little bit about it, but tell us what all it's going to curtail.
Well, we would like to have more than one school resource officer, but you got to start somewhere, and funding is tight. I talked to Jackson County Sheriff Chuck Phillips and Chief Deputy Rocky Harnan. We've talked several times, trying to make something happen. We need this in our schools. And finally, I guess it was a month and a half ago, Sheriff Phillips and myself got together, and we came up with an agreement, and we're getting a retired county officer that will be in a county uniform, in a county car. It is actual, if the county has a call, this cop will probably leave the school and take care of that. But we're gonna rotate it around our schools throughout the system, and the only people that are gonna know the schedule are myself, Sheriff Phillips, Chief Deputy Rocky Harnan, and the actual school resource officer, Kenneth Miller. Outside, the principals are not gonna know the schedule. If we have a need for it, we had a situation at North Sand Mountain this last year. We had a situation at Woodville where the Sheriff's Department, Jackson County Sheriff's Department, helped us out tremendously. They sent a sheriff up there from the beginning of the school day to pretty much the end, the week that those lockdowns took place. Well, this will be somebody to help us to take care of that, and it's also going to help the Sheriff's Department, because wherever they're at, that may give them another body if they have a call to get things done. We were able to afford it because it was a retired officer. So we've cut a deal with the county commission, the Sheriff's Department, and ourselves, and we're getting, our one officer for about $30,000, a little under $30,000. So we're excited, and we would like to add to that later on.
Well, I think it's a sad state that we have to look at school resource officers, but in this day and time we have to. You and I never had to worry. I mean, when you and I were going to school, we didn't even hardly see parents at the school, much less a police officer.
Exactly, and that's one of the things, I want to, at our institute on August the 9th, I want our officer I want to introduce him to all the teachers and the principals and assistant principals, so they'll know who's in and out of the schools. And we've always welcomed the local police departments and the local sheriff's department. We've always come in anytime you want, walk the halls anytime you want.
And I think they do.
They do. But we've got several schools that don't have a local officer, and so this will help in those situations too.
Well, I know the area that I see a lot, of course, is out at Bryant, Higdon, Flat Rock, Niter, Pisgah, in that area. And I see at times, especially when the school's going on, there'll be an officer sitting on the parking lot. Now he's just a patrolling officer, but a lot of times if they're going to find a place to park, they'll park near the school.
And that helps tremendously.
Oh, absolutely.
And just the fact when they walk down the hall, if it's just to get a drink of water or use a restroom, I mean, we appreciate that, and it is needed. Well,
that is good, and I think it's very wise. A lot of folks may have not picked up on the fact that there's only going to be just a few people even know the schedule, and that's important because nobody needs to know when they're going to be there or where they could be at any school at any time. So that is a good thing. So, folks, the kids coming back to school will notice that. And one of the things that I've seen with our school resource officers in Dade County, the kids get attached to them. They'll make friends with them. Even the high school kids, they like that. I mean, especially in middle school and elementary school, sometimes they'll get attached to them if they're there with them.
In the world we live in, the cops get a bad rap, and we want them to say the cops are not bad guys. they're there to help,
Absolutely.
to serve
Absolutely.
and protect. So.
Well, I think that's good, and hats off to you and Matthew Hodges and the Jackson County Commission and the sheriff, and for finding that money, because I know Jackson County has been they've been looking, because some of their sources that they've been funded by TVA, the different things that they're drying up, and
Yes, sir.
you know, I talk with on this program once a month. We sat down with the chairman, Matthew Hodges, and he explains to folks, you know, what they're having to deal with. So for y'all to come up with this, I think it's good. It's a great thing for the county.
We're very excited. We're excited about it. We just hope that it grows. We hope we can expand.
Well, that would well, you get one, and then hopefully you know, in a year or so you can add another one, and
Exactly.
you know, and go from there. We were talking to Kevin Dukes, who is the superintendent for Jackson County Schools. They start back, teachers on the 9th of August, and then the students will be on the 14th. As we go to this next break, you may not have an opinion formed on this yet, but I just got a tweet earlier today that yet another school has decided to take off the total eclipse day. I think on the 21st of August, and I got to thinking about that. I'm not really, I haven't formed my own opinion if that's good or bad yet. Have you had folks ask you about it?
Well, we were talking about that at lunch today. I can assure you, Jackson County Schools will not be taking off for the eclipse though this year. So, but that is an interesting conversation for sure.
Well, I can see. Hamilton County was one of the first. Ray County, just north of there. Marion County, that you connect with on the north end there at the Tennessee-Alabama line. They're going to. And now, the earlier today was Dalton City Schools, which is down in Whitfield County. And I'm not real sure where they're looking at that, and why they're thinking about it. But anyway, I just thought I would ask you, because I know it's probably been a topic of discussion.
It has been.
It won't be the last time you ask.
Today at lunch, and now I'm sure I'll get several more.
Probably so. We're going to take a break. Stay with us. Lots more still to come with the superintendent here on Sand Mountain Community Watch. You're watching Sand Mountain Community Watch here on KWN TV, and we are pleased to have the superintendent of Jackson County Schools with us this week on the program, just about back to school time, and we've talked about several things. If you haven't, if you're just now joining us in the program, we invite you to catch the beginning of the show. It'll be played several times all this week here on KWN TV, so just find out on your listings there, Sand Mountain Community Watch. But one of the things that we said at the beginning of the program, there's some positive things happening, and some money that's been handed out through grants that are going to make some improvements.
The first thing I'd like to talk about is we had 5 pre-K programs in the state, and we were awarded 2 more in the county, and we were awarded 2 more this summer at Section School in Bridgeport. And then, Governor Ivy, that's one of her pushes, is pre-K programs, and it's called the First Class Pre-K program. Well, Skyline School wrote for a grant. A.J. Buckner, our curriculum coordinator, got with the Skyline principal, Jason Davidson, and assistant principal, Emily Waldrop, and they decided to write for this grant, and they were awarded $30,000. One of 5 systems to get the grant, and only one of 8 schools to get the grant. And basically what it is that we've got 2 kindergarten teachers out there, Janice Wilson and Debbie Hastings, and they're going to get $15,000 to redo their classroom, and it's great. They went to training at Mountain Brook a couple weeks ago. Mr. Davidson went to training at Montgomery a couple weeks ago, and it's just something we're very excited about, especially being one of 8 schools in the state of Alabama, and we're getting to pilot this. We're excited about the opportunity.
That is very good news. And early education for a child, the earliest that you can start that structure and start the routines and learning the basics, the better off the child will be their entire life.
Absolutely, and we're excited about it. We are. Anything we can do to improve student achievement, we're willing to try.
Well, I think that it's good, as far as the kindergarten and the pre-K programs. I know on a federal level they've been struggling with that. The state level's been struggling, and Alabama's not the only state that's had to struggle. Some classes shutting down. So it's good that being able to bring some of those back. So you got 5 now, or no, you will have.
We'll have 7 total pre-K
7
classrooms.
When you go
and then
back into
when we start back to school, and then one of those 7, Skyline's the one that got the special grant.
Well, that's very great news for those of you that folks go to the Skyline community. So that'll be good. And I'm assuming that you're going to send out information, or information is available for pre-registration, or
we already have the sent out, and they've done the random draw. It's a random drawing to get selected for these pre-K programs, and there's a waiting list usually, and all that's already taken place and went through, and the folks that have signed up for it are aware of it.
Let me ask you, while I know you got a couple of other things you want to talk about, but while we're there, as far as the individual schools, do we have any big changes in any of the schools that the parents may need to be aware of, that start times or lunch prices going up?
And I'm glad you said that. We are extending the school day by 10 minutes at the end of the day. We're adding 10 minutes on to the school day at the end. The reason being, that gives us a few more weather days built in, because you've got to get so many minutes per day. And we had a few already built in, but this gives us a little bit more of a cushion. And so we figured, rather than doing it early, it would be better to do it at the end of the day. Like Huntsville City, their start times are 8 this year, 8 a.m. And that's kind of a trend people are going to, is starting later, because they're saying kids stay up later at night and this, that, and other. But we talked about that, and being from such a rural area, you've got people from this end of the county that work in Chattanooga.
Right.
They work on a different time zone. You've got your folks in the Woodville, Paint Rock Valley area, Skyline. A lot of them work in Huntsville. And we just can't justify leaving a kindergartner and a second grader waiting on the school bus just because we're starting school a little bit later. So geographically, it didn't make sense for us to do that. And so when we were talking about adding 10 minutes, rather than adding it to, make any changes of the morning, we did not change. We just added it to the end of the school day.
So, for instance, a typical, let's just use school A, if they normally loaded the buses or the school got out at 3:10, it'll be 3:20.
Well, most of them are about 2:30.
2:30.
And so now it's going to be 2:40.
2:40. All right.
And so that's we're anxious to see how it works.
And what, I guess, if you're wondering what Superintendent is talking about, adding a little bit more flexibility as far as weather days, because years ago, I know it was this way in Georgia, and it might have always been this way in Alabama, but years ago you had to go so many days. And, it was 180 days or 170 days or 175. And a few years back, the legislature changed it where you could go so many minutes collectively, which was the 180 days. But they put it in minute form where you could add 10 minutes to your day and have more flexibility in case you had a weather day. Is that?
That's exactly what it is. And fortunately, this last year, the governor declared a state of emergency, so we didn't get into that, but you never know. Like the April 27th tornado several years ago, it would have came into something like this. We haven't had a good snow in a while. It could. There's so many things, and it gives us a little more cushion than having to, should we make the call, should we not make the call? If we've got that, it's going to make the call easier. But again, like I told you earlier, student safety is number one priority, so we're going to take care of those first.
Well, you have that responsibility, and I know we already talked about that, but the weather is different. When you've got a county the size of Jackson County, where you have schools that are 20 minutes outside of Huntsville, and then you've got schools that are on Sand Mountain that is more susceptible to winter weather, and you may have 2 or 3 inches of snow at Bright and Flat Rock and North Sand Mountain, and if and in Woodville there's nothing, and that's got to be the hardest thing to be able to do.
And I've experienced that as principal at Skyline. If it snows in Jackson County, Skyline's going to get it. and so out driving through Scottsboro and there's nothing, absolutely nothing. Halfway up the mountain is solid white, and And you've probably heard that a lot throughout your life.
Oh, yeah.
That is a fact. I've lived it. I've seen it.
You've seen that?
And you're right. You know, Sand Mountain seems to get more snow than other parts, but everywhere's a little different. And there's been times that we've had to, you know, Paint Rock Valley floods quite a bit. So there may be days that we have to let Paint Rock Valley School out. So this will help them out as well. This will help the people with snow, with weather, any catastrophic event that we might have that's not a state of emergency.
Well, that's good. So all the schools, 10 extra minutes a day added on at the end of the school year or the school day. And that's good that you're doing it now and letting everybody know right off the bat. You can go ahead in the next couple of weeks adjust your schedules of when you're going to be having folks pick up or when the buses are going to be running. That's another thing that I always ask. Shouldn't be any changes of any bus routes, right?
We've got one at Skyline. We had a bus driver retire, and we run 10 buses out there. And to save some money, we're eliminating a route. We're going to consolidate it. So the principal of the school, the assistant principal of the school are going to, and the secretary are going to work on getting in touch with the students that their pickup times will be a little different. You know, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 or 15 minutes, but they're going to let each individual student know, their parents know before school starts back that there is going to be a change. But outside of that, pickup time will be the same throughout the rest of the county, all but that one little area of Skyline. And again, 10 minutes added to the day. So whatever time your child was dropped off of the bus or you picked them up, it's going to be 10 minutes later.
Do you see a trend towards parents picking more so now than you used to picking their kids up?
There's a lot of folks that will pick them up, and then a lot of them get there early. They'll get there and they're ready to get their child. But the schools do a great job of having it organized, having it laid out, and the parents know that they can't get their child till the bell rings, or they be considered tardy. So it's our schools do a good job of that.
And just asking, do you have a set time, or is it the individual school's choice of what time a school is open where it's safe to take your child and drop them off?
Every school's different.
Okay.
Every school's different, and that's just one where you'll need to call the local school and ask them what time they open the doors. And
because parents, it's really easy, that would be something that you'd want to do beforehand, because there's work schedules, and you may have a different work schedule than you had last year, because, obviously, unfortunately, you can't have the school open at 5:30 everywhere.
Exactly.
And you don't need to be dropping your child off of that. If there's not an adult there and the school's not open, I would think hopefully the parents would make some kind of arrangements to make sure that school is open.
Absolutely.
They could do the drop by and do that. Got another break coming up. Stay with us. We are talking this week about back to school in Jackson County, and we'll have more with the superintendent right after this. Back down to Sand Mountain Community Watch here on KWN TV. We've been enjoying our conversation with the superintendent of Jackson County Schools, Mr. Kevin Dukes. He's here with us on the program this week, talking about going back to school and what might you look forward, and your kids will look forward as they go back on the 14th of August. As they go back, there's still more things that are going to be happening. We've got some more grants we want to talk about.
Absolutely. Bridgeport Middle School, again, our curriculum supervisor, A.J. Buckner, got with Jonathan Coffin, the principal of Bridgeport Middle School, and they got together and they wrote a grant through Google, and it's called the Dynamic Learning Project, and Bridgeport Middle School was one of 50 schools nationwide to get chosen. Mr. Coffin and his teacher, Shannon McLean, got a trip to San Francisco about 2 weeks ago, and where they went over how this project was going to work, and basically they're going to have a technology instructor for the entire year, and Google was very, very promising to both of them, and they're very much excited about it, and we're excited about it. Like I said, Skyline, one of 8 schools in the state, Bridgeport Middle, one of 50 schools nationwide. I mean, it's just, we're excited. Well,
it's great to be able to have somebody like Google making the investment into your county, because they're going to make sure that the technology is there.
Absolutely.
Which is a win-win for the Jackson County kids.
and we're ready for Google to move to Bridgeport.
Yeah, and I know
be,
it's a slow process, but they are making some progress.
Yes, sir.
As
Yes,
it
sir.
goes along, and also North Sand Mountain's got a new woodworking. Y'all partnered
Absolutely,
with
with PNC Construction. They're partnering and they're providing carpentry skills and hands-on projects for some of our students. And they've PNC's kind of worked some with the Epcot, our tech school, and Mr. Kerry Wright and Dusty Roden and principal at North Sand Mountain. And it's a good thing. I mean, we want our kids college and career ready, and college and career ready. Not all of them are going to college, and this is a career, and there's some good money to be made in this type of field.
Well, you said something in education as a whole, and you've been in it long enough that you've seen the trend. A few years back, everybody was focused on college, and we kind of took our eye off the fact that not everybody goes to college, but the careers now, I see an insurgent all over this tri-state area, where you bring in folks that can teach, the plumbing and the electrical, because there's some good jobs in there.
Absolutely.
And not everybody wants to go to college. I had the folks from Northeast Alabama Community College on last week, and they're doing a lot of things in the community, partnering with the schools in Jackson and DeKalb County, but they're opening up a lot of different courses for folks who can come in and get certificates and being able to go to work and really never have to take a college course. That they get some good jobs. A monitor tech in the hospital, you can go in for 12 weeks and come out and go to work and start monitoring EKGs at a hospital. You're ready to go, and pretty good money.
Hands-on, the tech school, I mean, it's a great thing. I've said before, we're sitting on a gold mine. We just got to get more students interested and involved, and once they see, they like it. We've got engineering programs throughout the school, STEM. A lot of our schools have robotics, and again, the students love it. They love it, and they're not
way over the heads of the parents.
Sometimes it is, but students love it because it's hands-on learning, and although they're doing science and math and engineering, they're playing, they're having fun and enjoying it, and that. A lot of money to be made in those type fields.
Well, there certainly is, and it gives them an opportunity to enjoy something as they learn.
Absolutely.
And that in this day and time, because you've got so many distractions with the electronic gadgets and things like that, if you can kind of encompass a little bit of the electronic gadgets into learning, that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
That is a good thing. So that's great you're able to put it together. Jackson County's always had a good technical school there in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
And because of the logistical layout of the county, to have something, and you've always had to bus kids in from the high school level to take advantage of one central location. That's, I know you'd probably love to have these courses at every high school, but it'd be kind of hard to do that.
It would be tough, and Mr. Buckner and myself have talked about that, how we could make it happen, but it's really not feasible right now. But it would be neat. Like you said, there are some systems that kind of do it that way that he's checked into, but we're just excited about it. We're excited. Good things happening there. When they go to a competition statewide, they do well. When they go to a competition nationally, they do well.
And I've seen some competitions from Jackson County students over the summer.
Absolutely.
They've been retweeted. There again, we're going back to, if you don't follow Jackson County Schools if you don't have a Twitter account, you need to get one. And the superintendent here, he tweets about all the things that are happening. And there is also a lot of the individual principals and coaches and different things to keep up with what's going on.
It's an instant news source, and it's free, and so take advantage of it. That's what we do.
Absolutely. Well, I know you've. What do you do? You're preparing for the teachers to come back on the 9th. What have you and your staff and the principals been doing these last couple of weeks preparing for the teachers to get here?
Well, we're preparing for Institute. Last week and tomorrow we're having a leadership academy for our principals, assistant principals, and aspiring administrators, just to kind of give them principalship 101s, talk about leadership, different things like that. We've had guest speakers come in, and we've got a lot of new folks in our system, a lot of new folks. We've had one assistant principal at Stevenson Middle, I guess, for about a year now. The rest of them at all of our high schools, the newest one was January 3rd. So every high school, their assistant principal started January 3rd. So we've got a lot of learning to do, and so that's why we developed the Leadership Academy, and that's kind of led us into getting ready, you know, to talk about adding minutes to the day, schedules, school resource, graduation dates, things like that.
Yeah, a lot of folks don't. You're already having to plan on graduation, and the school's not even started yet.
Exactly. I don't have the dates with me, but we do have those laid out already. They're set.
Well, you pretty much have to with as many schools as you have to do. I know that we did with the 4 counties the TV station covers. I think we ended up with 14 high school graduations that we filmed.
Wow!
And that was a feat in itself to be able to do that. But we got it handled. Superintendent, we thank you very much for coming on. I know that it's going to be a great school year. First one for you getting started for the whole time. Now you've been elected to a 4-year term, right?
4-year term, yes, sir.
4-year term. So you're just getting in your inaugural first year by yourself.
Yes,
I guess it is good that you come in and halfway through the last because you get your feet wet.
Get your feet wet.
And now
good
you get now you really get to get in and start doing some things. Is there anything else that you want to share with folks in Jackson County? I'm
just excited about the upcoming school year. Again, student safety is our #1 priority, like I said, and we want gains in student achievement, and we've got things going that way with our pre-K, with our dynamic learning project. We've got a new math we've adopted, Eureka Math, in our schools that the board approved the other day, and things like that will increase our student achievement, and that's what it's about. And with all this, I'm just excited. I can't wait for the school year to get rolling.
Well, it'll be coming up here before you know it. Teachers report on the 9th of August, students on the 14th of August, and then it's and we learned here today that probably unless something changes, Jackson County will be in school on the eclipse day.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
You heard it here first. But no, I know there's going to be a lot of discussion as we go forth. It won't be the last time you're asked that question.
You're right. I'll probably get asked plenty of times between here and home.
I heard that. Well, I certainly do appreciate it.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you watching. And we're already talking, Superintendent and I, we may try to put something together. It'll be more frequent for all of the schools in Jackson County to be on TV to share what they're doing, and so we're going to talk more about that, and then I'll let you know as time goes on. We hope you enjoyed the program today. Get ready for a great school year. Remember the school zones. We've got schools that are starting back in this tri-state area. A lot of you work in Chattanooga. You got Walker County that is starting in North Georgia later on this week. Several of the schools are going to be starting. Ray County. Watch out for the school zones everywhere, because it's very, very important that when you get around these schools that you need to slow down, and that 15-mile-an-hour speed limit needs to be observed around the school zone. Let's make it a great, safe return for all of our students around the area. Thank you very much. Thanks for the superintendent, and we'll see you next week right here on Sand Mountain Community Watch.